Hi and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a quarterly review with you on how our homeschool has been going. And so if you enjoy this type of content and other homeschool and lifestyle content, please remember to subscribe and let's get into it. All right, so our quarters are looking a little bit different this year just because we're going to Africa in like a week and a half. It's okay, I'm not freaking out. Totally freaking out. Okay, so it's getting very, very close. And so it's just kind of a little bit messed up. We did some stuff during the summer that we weren't gonna be able to easily do in Africa. And so this is kind of just going over a few of those things and kind of where we're at now. And then I'm also gonna share something new with you that we did this last about month, I guess. And so I'm excited to talk to you about that. All right, so first I wanted to talk about math. Half of my kids are just doing their normal math, like one lesson a day. The other two, my two boys, are like turbo speed a little bit. My oldest is doing Algebra 1 right now. He's 13 and he's going through Algebra 1. But I also have the geometry book for him. We're doing Denison Math. And so I was like, we can't take both of these, they're humongous. And we just don't have space to be able to do this, you know, weight limits and everything. And so he looked at his lessons recently because I feel like we planned to get more done during the summer than we did. He was gone a lot. He had several camps and things that he went to for church. And so he didn't end up probably getting done as much as I was thinking he would, because I was like, there was plenty of time for him to finish. So the last month or so, he's been doing 2 lessons a day for 5 days a week, which we usually only do school 4 days a week. So he's been doing 10 lessons a week. And it's been a lot, but he actually really loves it. He gets up, he's very much just goes and starts doing his schoolwork. He eats breakfast, like he's very routine driven, and he just follows the little check boxes, which is hard if it gets thrown off, but it's good normally because he just goes through the routine. And so he has gone through several math lessons. I think he's supposed to finish this week or the beginning of next week with his Algebra 1 book. And he's just loving it. Every week when I ask him, because I have to write a report for our charter school, I'm like, what was your favorite part of the week? It's either math or chemistry. And that's all he ever talks about, math or chemistry. And it just cracks me up. This week it was like, yeah, the quadratic equation. I'm like, you're so funny. I love math too, but he's just cracking me up so much. So anyway, he is doing that. And then my 10-year-old, I'm like, how old is he? My 10-year-old son is very close to finishing Math 6 from The Good and the Beautiful. And so he's trying to finish up that book. So some days he does 2 lessons, some days he just does 1 and get through them all. He's pretty darn close before we leave because he's just gonna start Math 7, so I don't have to bring those books and answer keys as well. So that's kind of where we are with math. Some of them are on the very expedited path and the rest of them are just doing normal stuff. Language arts is pretty predictable. Everybody's been doing basically just 1 lesson, the same thing. I did mention in a vlog probably about a month ago that once we sort of officially started our school year this fall, I feel like this year we didn't have an official start date because we kind of just were doing school all summer long. But once we kind of got to a point where we did like our French toast casserole and our name cookies and things that we do for back to school, that's when we switched my oldest 2 kids to Math 7, Math 8, Math 7. Yes, Math 7 from The Good and the Beautiful. I'm like, I don't know. And so they were doing the other one. I think they were on Math 6. Again, I can't remember for sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. They were on Math 6 and then we just switched them to Math 7. They weren't done with Math 6, but again, I didn't want to be in this weird position where like in January, they needed other books. I wasn't gonna bring 2 different sets. And so we just switched them and they've both been doing fine. They've been doing really great with it. There hasn't been any problems, anything that's like, oh, we shouldn't have switched them. They both just jumped up and were fine with it. My daughter's in 7th grade and then my son is in 8th grade. So that's kind of where they're at, and they both have been on the same language arts lessons for several years. So we just keep them at that speed. It works best for them. So that's basically what language arts looks like. And then the new thing that we tried this last month was WonderWell Learning. And it's an online learning platform. Actually, one of my friends I walk with, her sister started it up, and I really have loved it so much. It combines secular learning with more faith-based learning and Christian learning. And so I didn't have to worry about the content, not that I usually am with online classes, but sometimes you are, and I love that it mixes the faith-based learning as well, because then that's one of my favorite things about homeschool. I've mentioned this before, but I love incorporating Christ into our homeschool and my kids seeing how everything in the world interconnects with Christ. And I just think that's such a wonderful thing to be able to do. And that's what WonderWell Learning is doing on their platform. And all the teachers are vetted. It's a very meticulous process to go through and find teachers that meet those same values. And then they create classes. And there are lots of fun, different types of classes too. And I have a list here so I don't forget the classes my kids took. And so they had given us some different options to pick some classes. And the classes we took were like 30 to 45 minutes long. And they have a few different options. They have ones that are just like a one-time class. They have one that's an open series. So it's just kind of ongoing all the time. You can jump in. And there's some of them that are like 4 classes or 6 classes, right? So it's like 4 weeks in a row. You take this same class and it builds on the last one, sort of thing. And so all my kids, well, not my oldest. When I say all my kids, I always mean the ones that are in school, not the 2 littlest ones. But my oldest, we didn't have him take any classes. Sometimes that's a little bit tricky for him with being autistic and stuff. And so I did the next 3. They took classes and they really enjoyed them. So my 12-year-old daughter took let me see what it's even called I wrote them down, but now I can't read my notes. Oh, let's create an animal storybook. And so that was a lot of fun. This was one that was 4 weeks. And so each week built on each other. And so the first week they made a book. So this is her final book. She's not finished with it because she still has to work on it. But the first week they made an example type book. And then they were able to write different thoughts they had for stories and things like that. And then over the weeks, they talked about different parts of stories. And the final week, they come with this book ready to write their story and illustrate it. And so this is her first page. She's like, Mom, my book's not done. You can't show them. I'm like, it's fine. Like, they don't need to see the finished book. And so because she was working really hard on it, right? She drew some pictures. She wrote part of the story. It's about, I think, a puppy that makes friends and stuff. So she has all the rest of the pages, but she got very creative with it, which I appreciated. She was trying to staple her book together, and the paper she wanted to use was too thick, so our stapler wasn't working. So she actually stitched it. She has done this before in the past. So she went through, got some string. I wasn't helping her at all. She just did this and stitched it and then put like the washi tape on the binding to make it look super cute with this little tassel. And so I was very impressed. She was very excited to take the class. It was very fun for her. And then another class, she just took one of them. This one I believe is like an open series class, and it's a modern artist art project club. So she did this little, what did she use? Alcohol markers. And they can use whatever medium they want to. So we had these canvases and they were doing some cats and we were making fun of her. This looks just like my 2-year-old, by the way, the facial expression. This is how her facial expression is all the time. If you saw her family pictures on Instagram, you know, this is what she looks like all the time. And so my oldest daughter's like, I don't know how to draw a picture of a cat smiling, but she had a really fun time doing this. And every week or every class that they have different options. They send out lists of what you need. I had really good interactions with the teachers, them just being like, here's the list. If you have any questions or need help with anything, let me know. And that was really great. And then my 10-year-old son took a history mysteries class, and I might actually go sign him up for one tomorrow. Because he's like, Mom, next week we're supposed to be talking about the ghost ship. And I'm like, oh, we're not signed up for that one. and he was so bummed about it. But they talked like about Amelia Earhart and the mystery of that, and there's some STEM component to it. And so it tells you supplies, sometimes it's just a paper and a pencil, and sometimes you need a few other things so that they can actively participate in it. And he loves it. He loves learning about those types of things, and also just interacting with other students. And I think it's great because it's stuff that maybe I'm not as good at teaching, but these teachers are great at it. And so my kids are able to go and I don't have to worry about it, and they can go have fun. And then the last one I wanted to mention was farm and forage. And they have a few classes that have different age brackets. And so this was one of them that has an older group and it has a younger group. And so my 8-year-old was in this younger group, and the person, like the teacher, takes you and shows you stuff on the farm. And it was really fun. She got us sit in front of, like the teacher was sitting in front of the cow that just had a baby, and my daughter was able to see that. They were able to talk about some different things with the cow, and just super fun things. And that one's also like an open series class. So if you can come to it, then you sign up, and if not, then it's not a big deal. You're not missing out. Whereas like the story one, you know, every week builds on the next week to do the final project at the end. So I've really, really loved doing all the stuff. I wish we could do it in Africa, but the time change makes it difficult. You know, we're gonna be like 8 to 9 hours ahead. And so that would make it hard for us to do these classes. But I want to do it when we get back. My kids really, really enjoyed it. And they gave me a code for you guys. If you wanna try out a class, any of the classes on their website, which I'll link down below, you just put Jackie 10, which I'll put this down below too, and it gives you $10 off any of those classes. And so I encourage you to go try it out. I love, again, that it's just faith-based content. It's good, it's wholesome, and it's so much fun. The next thing I want to mention is science. We made it through 3 science units this summer because we're not going to be doing really any science there. We'll talk about maturation, but anything with experiments that required lots of materials, it was just going to be too difficult to do. So we did space. I don't have that book here. I think I talked about this already, but I can't remember for sure. It's been a crazy like month and my brain is a little bit frazzled right now. And so space is so fun. We've done it twice, From the Good and the Beautiful, and there's just a lot of fun activities my kids really love. Their favorite is probably the phases of the moon with Oreos. You know, you twist them open and carve out or lick out or whatever you want to do the white part to do the different phases of the moon. That's super fun. And then we also did ecosystems. The next 2 I'm mentioning were shorter lessons than some of their units by maybe just like 4 or 5. So not crazy, but they were a little bit smaller, which was good for us. We were able to like work it into our schedule. And they had a few activities in them that we were able to do. One of my favorite things about the Good and the Beautiful's lessons is the supply list right here that goes through, so I can look through everything at the beginning and just know exactly what we need. One of my kids' favorite parts was making ecosystems with food. And so it gives some different options. Let me see if I can find it. So you use like grapes and pretzels and things like that. And it was just so fun for them. Sorry, my pages are kind of stuck together. So you can see right here, this little tree. And so it's grapes and pretzels, bananas, strawberries, and then they have little Teddy Grahams, or you can use animal crackers for the little like people or animals and stuff. And it was fun. That was like one of their favorite things to do. Even my littlest kids just love doing that. So there's some really good activities in here, and I love the student workbooks. They're so helpful. And so we did that one. And then we also did Kingdoms and Classifications. We just finished this one last week, I think. And this one was also a lot of fun. This has a lot of microscope activities. We have a microscope. It's not great. It was a gift to my 8-year-old maybe last year, 2 years ago for Christmas. I can't remember. And it was a fine microscope. It's like a starter one, but they've also played with it. So some of the settings are a little bit wonky. So we did use it, but there are way more activities in here for a microscope that you could use it for than we did, just because of trying to pull it out and figure out the settings and stuff like that. But something my kids loved was doing the Petri dishes. I don't know if you did Petri dishes when you were younger in school, but we did, and I remember doing it, and it was kind of gross, right? Which it was gross this time too. And this book gives you like a homemade recipe if you don't want to buy them. I just went and bought a few off of Amazon. It came in like a 12 pack or something, but it tells you how to make it because it's like a gelatin. So you could just make it if you want to, but you have to make it a few days in advance. It tells you when to make it, so it'll be ready for the lesson, which again, I love the like preparedness of these lessons, how it warns me in advance what needs to be done. But my kids loved doing that, and it had you do like, just, you could pick any surface and then you clean it. So you'd have one Petri dish basically that was just dirty and one that had been cleaned. Obviously all of them still grew some sort of bacteria, and then you had a control one that had not been touched. And they loved, like, day after day, just seeing things grow, and I'm like, this is gross. Some of it was like their shoes, and very last minute, they're like, we wanna do our noses, which actually their noses were cleaner than some of the other things, so that was good. They didn't like clean out their noses, they just did the like dirty test of their noses. But I was like, I do not like things stuck up my nose, so whatever, but it was there, they loved it so much. And so these were really great. The Good and the Beautiful's science lessons are always just a slam dunk for us, so we really enjoyed doing those. The last thing I wanted to mention is history. We've been doing The Good and the Beautiful's new history curriculum, and I'm not gonna give a comparison to the old because I really just don't know the old curriculum well enough. We did year one, which this is year one, but that was several years ago, and so I don't even remember. I feel like there's a lot of similarities from what I do remember, but this one does have a lot of color. And if I remember correctly, the story from the old ones that you'd listen to, like on a recording from either their app or their website, was a continuous story, like it was I think a grandparent with the grandchildren telling the story, and it wasn't every single time, but there was different things they'd chime in and talk about. This one has a story book that has different stories. So there's this history stories book, and you can either read them yourself or on the Homeschool app for The Good and the Beautiful, they have the history listed. You can go in there, you click on the like audio part, it has all the recordings, and then it just has a little code you have to enter. So it's really easy because the beginning of each story, let me see if I can find the beginning, has a little access code right up here at the top. And you just type that in to listen to the story that you're picking. And that's nice for me because my voice gets worn out anyways from talking so much to my kids. So being able to just let them listen to the recording, and then it dings for you, which is fun, to change the page. So that's been something that's slightly different, but still, like, they had some sort of audio recording before. And again, I don't know other things, but so far we've been liking this. We like doing the activities. We just made the trebuchets. I don't speak French, and we're going to a French-speaking country, but my husband does, so. But right here, and I'll probably post pictures on Instagram pretty soon of my kids making them. They're like the little slingshot, well, they're not little in real life, they're huge, but they flip the thing around, they have the counterweight, and then throw stuff at the enemy. And so they made those out of popsicle sticks, like small versions, and that was super fun for them. And then one other thing we did with this, so they come with workbooks. The older kids for the 7th and 8th grades, substantially bigger than the younger kids, because this has extension activities, and I've been having my older kids do them because I just feel like they're really good. There was even one here about your, like, doing a pedigree chart or family history chart, you know, so we were having to, okay, this is what your great-grandparents' names are and your great-great-grandparents. I don't even know if it went back that far, but we were looking at our family history tree and going through that. And so that was fun for them. But today we're going to leave before we get to this lesson, and we're already stopped doing history until we get to Africa. But I wanted to make sure they did this because I didn't know how easy it would be to access the supplies in Africa. So I made myself a note to do that. So this was invisible ink. You can't even read that. I should get my son's because his is even funnier. But it tells you the little formula for doing it. And so it's baking soda and water, and then you write your message, you let it dry, and then you do the rubbing alcohol and the turmeric, which those were the things, especially the rubbing alcohol, I wasn't sure what we'd have access to. And so then you rub it over the message and it shines through. And as his started to come through, this is my oldest son, it's a math equation. It's the quadratic equation. I was like, it was so funny. I was laughing so hard. I was like, oh my gosh, we're a bunch of geeks. But that's what he did. So that was super fun. And then they also have these timeline books, which I'm liking. They go through all 4 years. So you'd keep this for all 4 years and it's color coded for the year. But I feel like it provides a good visual to see what's going on in different parts of history. And so I've really been appreciating that. So far history is going really well. We're close to halfway through. I'm not sure if we're exactly halfway yet. I think just a few more lessons and we will be. But so far, I'm really enjoying it. All right, so that is my quarterly review. I hope you enjoyed it. I encourage you to check out WonderWell Learning. It's a great opportunity to have some online classes and to take a little stress off of you as a mom to let your kids do these classes. I'll make sure the code is linked down below for your $10 off. Remember to give this video a thumbs up and I will see you next time.